Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Women test men for the same reason nature tests everything, to reveal weakness and reward strength. If you don't understand these tests, you'll fail them. If you react emotionally, you'll lose her respect. Most men think women's tests are unfair, manipulative, or just games. But the truth is, they're wired into female psychology. Women don't test you to play with your emotions, they test you to see who you really are. A Stoic man never gets caught off guard. He understands the game and plays it with calm, controlled confidence. In this video, you'll learn the 7 most common tests women use on men and exactly how to handle them. Watch until the end because if you fail these tests, you'll never earn a woman's true respect. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your experiences. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1: The Provide Test. It's the first date. The conversation has flowed effortlessly, and the chemistry seems promising. The waiter arrives, setting the bill on the table between you. She doesn't flinch, doesn't reach for her wallet, doesn't even make a move toward the check. Instead, she just waits, silent, expectant, watching how you respond. This is the moment many men misinterpret. Some feel a surge of anxiety, rushing to pay, convinced that covering the bill will impress her, that it will prove something. Others feel an unexpected wave of irritation, questioning why she assumes it's their responsibility. They hesitate, wondering if they should say something, waiting to see if she at least makes the polite gesture of offering. And then there are those who see it for what it is, not about money, not about fairness, but about something deeper, a test. Women test men in ways they themselves don't always fully understand. This moment is not about financial obligation, it's about instinct, an ancient, biological screening method wired into human nature. For thousands of years, a man's ability to provide was directly tied to survival. The strongest, most capable men ensured safety, stability, and sustenance. Women did not consciously calculate this, they simply gravitated toward the men who demonstrated strength in these areas. Though times have changed and modern women are independent, that subconscious instinct still lingers. A woman observing how you handle provision is not necessarily being manipulative, she's following programming older than civilization itself. But this is where things get complicated. Some men fail the test by paying out of fear, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of looking weak. They don't make a conscious decision to pay, they simply react, throwing down their card as if their worth depends on it. These are the men who believe provision alone will earn them respect, that by giving without boundaries, they will secure admiration. In reality, a woman may take the gesture for granted, treating it as expected rather than appreciated. This is where men must recognize the difference between a natural test and outright entitlement. Because while women test men instinctively, some do so with an underlying attitude of superiority. If she expects you to pay and offers no gratitude, if she treats it as a given, without respect for the gesture, then this is no longer a test. It is entitlement. A test can be passed, but entitlement is a warning sign. If she shows even a hint of resentment when you hesitate or analyze the situation, she does not see you as a man, she sees you as a resource. And a relationship built on one person providing endlessly while the other simply takes will never lead to fulfillment. A Stoic man understands this distinction. He pays because he chooses to, not because he is pressured or manipulated. He provides because he is generous, because he enjoys giving, but only when it is met with appreciation. A man who leads financially without being controlled by it is a man who commands respect. But he also knows his own worth. If he sees that his effort is met with entitlement rather than gratitude, he does not argue, does not complain, does not beg for reciprocity, he simply walks away. Men must also be aware that provision is more than just money. A woman testing for provision is not necessarily checking the size of your bank account. She is watching for confidence, decisiveness, and leadership. How do you carry yourself? Do you make the decision without hesitation, or do you fumble awkwardly? Do you own the moment, or do you shrink under pressure? The way you handle a simple bill can reveal far more about you than numbers on a bank statement. A wealthy man who pays with insecurity and desperation appears weak. A man of moderate means who pays with certainty and composure appears strong. So, how do you pass the test? You lead, but you do not let yourself be used. If you decide to pay, do it with confidence, without over-explaining, without second-guessing, without expecting anything in return. But observe. Does she appreciate it? Does she acknowledge it? Does she show an effort in other ways? A woman who values a man will find ways to reciprocate, even if not financially. She will show her gratitude through respect, through kindness, through investment in the relationship. If, however, you notice a pattern, if she expects but never gives, if she demands but never contributes, then you have your answer. The provide test is not about a single dinner bill. It is a glimpse into a much larger dynamic. It is a preview of how a woman views relationships, expectations, and effort. A man who understands this does not panic. He does not complain about the unfairness of it. He simply observes, decides, and acts accordingly. If the respect is mutual, he continues. If the entitlement is evident, he walks. Simple as that. Chapter 2. The Protect Test. Imagine this, you and a woman are walking down a dimly lit street at night. The air is cool, and the distant hum of the city fills the silence between you. Suddenly, from the opposite direction, a group of unfamiliar men appears. Their movements are unpredictable. Maybe they're just passing by, maybe they're looking for trouble. Instinctively, she inches closer to you. She doesn't say a word, but her body language speaks volumes. She's waiting to see how you react. Will you step up, remain unfazed, and subtly assure her she's safe? Or will you freeze, hesitate, or, worse, pretend nothing is happening? This moment is what we call the Protect Test. Women don't always test men with words. Often, it's through subtle actions, subconscious cues, and real-world situations. The Protect Test is deeply ingrained in human nature, an evolutionary necessity. Women seek security in a man, not because they are weak or incapable, but because, historically, their survival often depended on the strength, composure, and awareness of the men around them. In ancient times, a woman's mate had to be someone who could defend her against real threats, predators, rival tribes, or danger in the wilderness. That instinct hasn't disappeared, even in today's modern society. The threats may have changed, but the psychology remains the same. Now, here's where many men fail. They overcompensate. Some try too hard to appear dominant. They puff out their chests, glare aggressively at strangers, and even go as far as picking unnecessary fights just to prove their masculinity. They assume that being protective means being loud, confrontational, and physically intimidating. But this isn't protection, it's recklessness. A real man does not create problems where there are none. He does not escalate situations out of ego. True protection isn't about showing off, it's about control. It's about being the kind of man who can command a situation without a single word. A woman feels safe not because she sees aggression, but because she senses composure. The man who keeps his head when others lose theirs is the one who truly holds power. On the other end of the spectrum, some men fail by ignoring the test entirely. They dismiss her body language, assuming she's just being paranoid. They keep walking as if nothing is happening, oblivious to the shift in energy. When she instinctively moves closer, they fail to acknowledge what's happening. In doing so, They communicate something dangerous, that they are not present, not aware, and not in tune with their environment. A man who ignores potential danger isn't just failing her, he's failing himself. A lack of situational awareness is a weakness that extends far beyond this single moment. It suggests a general carelessness that makes him unfit to lead, unfit to protect, unfit to be trusted in times of crisis. A Stoic man, however, understands that true strength is silent. He doesn't act out of fear, nor does he act out of arrogance. He is calm, composed, and situationally aware. When a woman moves closer, he doesn't panic, he simply adjusts. He acknowledges her discomfort without making a big deal out of it. His presence alone should be enough to reassure her. If there is a potential threat, he does not react emotionally. He does not engage unless absolutely necessary. He simply remains prepared, ready to step in if the situation calls for it. He walks with purpose, his posture steady, his eyes scanning his surroundings without paranoia. His movements exude confidence, sending a silent but powerful message: I am in control. You are safe with me. The protect test isn't limited to dark streets or physical danger. It happens in social settings, in everyday interactions. If someone disrespects her, how do you respond? Do you step up calmly, asserting boundaries without unnecessary aggression? If she's feeling overwhelmed in a crowded place, do you notice and adjust accordingly? Even the simple act of walking on the outside of the sidewalk, positioning yourself between her and passing traffic, sends a signal. Protection isn't about heroics, it's about presence. It's about showing her, again and again, that she doesn't have to worry when she's with you. Women don't need reckless heroes, they need men who can handle pressure with a steady mind. The protect test isn't about being violent or aggressive. It's about being dependable. It's about understanding that safety isn't just physical, it's psychological. She needs to know that when push comes to shove, you will not crumble under pressure. She needs to feel, without you having to say a word, that she is with a man who knows what he's doing. Ask yourself, are you aware? Are you in control? Can she trust you in a tough situation? If the answer is yes, you pass the protect test, not with words, but with actions. And in a world full of men who talk but don't act, that makes you rare. That makes you irreplaceable. Chapter 3. The Jacket Test. It's a cold night. The wind cuts through the air, and she crosses her arms, rubbing them lightly. She shivers, then casually says, I'm cold. It seems like a simple statement, but it's more than that. This is a test, a subtle one, but a test nonetheless. She isn't just making small talk. She isn't just stating a fact. She's watching to see what you do next. This is a variation of the provider test, the deep-rooted biological instinct in women that seeks a man who can take care of her, not just in a physical sense, but in an emotional one too. Women are wired to assess whether a man is attentive, whether he notices small details, whether he's willing to extend a bit of care. She's not freezing to death. She doesn't need your jacket to survive. What she wants to know is, are you the kind of man who picks up on these cues? Are you generous? Are you protective? Some men fail by overthinking. They hesitate, their minds racing. Wait, is she playing games? Does she want me to offer, or is this a trick? Should I just ignore it? They get caught up in analysis paralysis, unsure of how to act, so they do nothing. And doing nothing is the quickest way to fail. Others fail in the opposite direction. They ignore it entirely, thinking she should have brought her own damn jacket. Not my problem. They see it as a test of independence instead of what it really is, a test of awareness. These men think they're being logical, but in reality, they're missing the point. A woman isn't looking for a man who treats her like a soldier in boot camp, demanding that she fend for herself in every situation. She's looking for a man who understands when small acts of generosity matter. Then there's the other extreme, the men who jump to offer their jacket instantly, not out of generosity, but out of desperation to win approval. They're eager to please, to prove that they're a good guy. They rush to take off their jacket before she even finishes her sentence, and in doing so, they send a signal that they're trying too hard. A woman doesn't want a man who bends over backward to impress her. She wants a man who offers because he chooses to, not because he feels pressured to. A Stoic man? He plays it differently. He understands the test, but he doesn't let it control him. He doesn't scramble to prove himself, nor does he coldly dismiss her words. Instead, he takes in the situation and responds based on what feels reasonable. If it's genuinely cold and she looks uncomfortable, he might casually take off his jacket and hand it to her. Not because he's trying to score points, but because it's a simple, natural gesture. He offers, but without expectation and without needing validation in return. But if she expects it, if there's an air of entitlement in her voice, as if she believes he should give up his warmth without so much as a thank you, he notes it. He doesn't reward ungratefulness. He pays attention to her response because entitlement is a red flag. A woman who assumes that a man should always provide without appreciation is a woman who will drain him in the long run. The key lesson here? Generosity is good. Attentiveness is attractive. But being manipulated is a mistake. A Stoic man walks the balance. He is generous, but never a pushover. He is aware, but never desperate. And that's why, when he does offer his jacket, it means something. It's not just an automatic reaction, it's a choice. A choice that shows his strength, not his neediness. And that, in the end, is what separates him from the rest. Chapter 4. The Confidence Test. Women love confidence, but they don't just look for it. They test for it. They don't want to hear you talk about how confident you are, they want to see it in action. They want to feel it in your presence. And to do that, they'll push you. They'll poke at your ego. They'll throw subtle challenges your way, just to see how you handle them. Confidence isn't about bravado, and it's certainly not about arrogance. It's about self-assurance, about standing firm in who you are, without needing anyone else's approval. Women instinctively recognize this, and that's why they test for it. They need to know if your confidence is real or just a fragile act. The only way to find out? Push you, provoke you, challenge you, and see if you crack. Maybe she teases you, saying something like, "Is that really what you're wearing?" Or "You're kind of full of yourself, aren't you?" It's playful, but it's a challenge. She's watching. Do you get defensive? Do you try to justify yourself? Do you suddenly start second-guessing your choices? Do you scramble to prove that you're not arrogant, or do you get flustered and lose your composure? Maybe she pushes your buttons. She contradicts you, makes a sarcastic remark, or questions your achievements. Maybe she pretends to be unimpressed when you tell a story, responding with a disinterested "that's nice." Does this make you desperate to win her approval? Do you start over-explaining, trying to prove yourself? Do you get annoyed, acting like she's being unfair? If you do, you fail. Most men fall into this trap without even realizing it. They take the bait. They overreact. They get angry and try to prove themselves, raising their voice, flexing their accomplishments, or talking about how alpha they are. Others go the opposite way. They shut down completely, becoming withdrawn and awkward, feeling rejected before they even had a chance. In both cases, the result is the same. They reveal insecurity. And insecurity is the ultimate deal breaker. A woman doesn't want a man who crumbles at the first sign of resistance. She doesn't want a man whose confidence is so fragile that the slightest push knocks him off balance. She wants a man who is steady, unshaken no matter what. A Stoic man understands this. He doesn't take her tests personally. He doesn't see them as insults, but as opportunities to prove, without trying, that he is exactly the kind of man she's looking for. So how does he pass the confidence test? By staying calm. By never seeking validation. If she teases, he teases back, keeping it light and playful. If she acts unimpressed, he doesn't flinch because he doesn't need her approval to feel good about himself. If she tries to shake his confidence, he stands firm, unaffected by her attempts. He knows that his value is not determined by her reactions, but by his own belief in himself. True confidence is not about proving, it's about being. It's about knowing your value so deeply that nothing she says or does can throw you off. It's about having a presence that speaks for itself. The moment you understand this, you'll stop reacting. You'll stop trying to win her over. You'll stop needing to be right. You'll simply exist in your own self-assured state. And ironically, that's when she'll start chasing you. Because nothing is more attractive to a woman than a man who cannot be broken. But let's take this even further. The confidence test isn't just about romantic attraction. It's a reflection of how you handle the world. Confidence isn't situational, it's a fundamental trait that determines how you deal with challenges, setbacks, and criticisms in every aspect of life. When you fail the confidence test with a woman, you're likely failing it elsewhere, whether it's at work, in friendships, or in how you carry yourself daily. A truly confident man doesn't need to turn it on when talking to a woman, it's part of his very nature. That's why this test matters so much. Women aren't just assessing whether you can handle a playful tease, they're assessing whether you're the kind of man who can handle life. A man who knows his worth, no matter what. A man who doesn't need external validation to stand tall. A man who, when pushed, doesn't stumble, doesn't shrink, doesn't lash out, but simply remains. So, the next time she throws a challenge your way, see it for what it is, not an attack, not a trap, but an opportunity. An opportunity to prove, without a single word, that you are unshakable. That you are centered. That you are a man who stands firm in his value, whether she approves or not. And that is exactly the kind of man who commands true respect, attraction, and admiration. Chapter 5. The Jealousy Test. She mentions her ex, maybe in a casual conversation, maybe in a way that makes it sound like he was special. She tells you about a guy who hit on her at work, at the gym, or while she was out with friends. Or maybe she goes further. She flirts with another man right in front of you, laughing a little too much at his jokes, letting him get just a bit too close. Your instincts scream at you to react. Your ego wants to prove something. You feel a surge of irritation, maybe even anger. But before you act, you need to understand something crucial. This isn't just random behavior. It's a test. And it's one that most men fail. She's not necessarily trying to hurt you. She's not always doing it to make you jealous just for the sake of it. What she's really doing is checking your security as a man. She's watching how you handle pressure. Are you emotionally in control, or are you easily thrown off balance? Weak men fail this test in predictable ways. They overreact, sometimes aggressively. They interrogate her, demand explanations, or accuse her of disrespect. Some get possessive, trying to mark their territory like a jealous animal. Others sulk, withdraw, and let insecurity eat away at them, turning cold and passive-aggressive. No matter how they react, the result is the same. Their insecurity is exposed. And nothing kills attraction faster than insecurity. A woman doesn't want a man who is easily shaken by small things. She doesn't want a man whose emotions are dictated by what she says or does. If a few words about an ex or an interaction with another man can make him spiral, how will he handle real challenges in life? If he gets rattled over minor things, how can he protect her when bigger problems arise? The moment a woman senses weakness, her respect for the man starts to erode. And once respect is gone, attraction follows. A strong man, a stoic man, plays it differently. He stays unbothered. He understands that jealousy is nothing but wasted energy. If she's truly loyal, then there's nothing to be upset about. If she isn't, then she's not worth his time anyway. Either way, there's no need for an emotional reaction. Instead of feeding into the drama, he remains composed. If she talks about her ex, he listens without emotional investment. If she mentions another man hitting on her, he simply acknowledges it and moves on. If she flirts in front of him, he doesn't flinch because his confidence isn't threatened by meaningless interactions. His calm response does something powerful. It separates him from all the insecure men she's encountered before. It makes her see him differently, not as a man who needs reassurance or control, but as a man who is truly secure in himself. This is the kind of energy that commands respect. The kind of presence that makes her see him as someone she doesn't want to lose. And here's the irony: when a man doesn't react to jealousy tests, women often stop giving them. Why? Because they realize he's beyond them. He's already proven himself. He's shown that he's not affected by petty games, so there's no need to keep playing them. The truth is simple: if you react with insecurity, you fail. If you react with calm confidence, you pass. It's that black and white. Women don't want a man who gets jealous, they want a man who is so sure of himself that jealousy becomes irrelevant. That's the man who holds the power in any relationship. That's the man who never has to chase, never has to beg for respect, and never has to prove himself through petty battles. So the next time she brings up an ex, mentions another man, or flirts in front of you, remember, it's not about her. It's about you. It's about proving, not to her, but to yourself, that you are above insecurity. That you are a man who knows his worth, no matter what. Chapter 6, The Past Test. She asks about your exes. At first, it seems casual, maybe a passing question over dinner or a subtle probe during a deeper conversation. So, how long was your last relationship? What happened between you two? Are you still in contact? The words seem harmless, just part of a natural conversation. But don't be fooled, this isn't just curiosity. It's a test. A crucial one. She's not just listening to your words. She's watching your tone, reading between the lines, and analyzing your emotional state. The way a man talks about his past relationships says everything about his emotional maturity, confidence, and ability to move forward. Women instinctively know this. That's why they ask. It's not about digging up old wounds, it's about understanding what kind of man you are when faced with your own history. Most men fail this test in one of two ways. First, there's the bitter man, the one who badmouths his ex. He says, "Oh, she was crazy," or "she cheated on me," or "she was toxic." He thinks he's making himself look like the victim, the innocent party who did nothing wrong. But to a woman, this is a huge red flag. It signals unresolved resentment, insecurity, and a lack of emotional control. If you're still angry about your past, you haven't truly moved on. And if you blame your ex entirely, you're showing a lack of accountability. That's a major turn-off. Then, there's the avoidant man, the one who dodges the question altogether. He gets uncomfortable, changes the subject, or gives vague, dismissive answers. He might say, "Oh, I don't really like talking about my past," or "It didn't work out, let's leave it at that." On the surface, this might seem like a strong response, but in reality, it makes a woman suspicious. Why is he avoiding the topic? Is he hiding something? Is he emotionally unavailable? His refusal to engage can make him seem closed off, untrustworthy, or even guilty of something. A Stoic man, however, handles the past test with ease. He doesn't trash his exes. He doesn't dodge the question. Instead, he keeps his response light, honest, and emotionally neutral. He might say, "We had some great times, but ultimately, we wanted different things." Or, "We ended on good terms, but we weren't the right match long term." This type of response shows maturity, self-awareness, and emotional control. It tells a woman that he's capable of love, but also capable of letting go. And that's the key, letting go. A Stoic man never lets the past define him. He acknowledges it, but he doesn't dwell on it. He understands that every relationship, good or bad, was simply a lesson, a chapter in his story. He doesn't carry emotional baggage into his present. He doesn't hold grudges, and he certainly doesn't let past heartbreaks dictate his future. He is a man who has lived, learned, and moved forward. Because here's the deeper truth: when a woman asks about your past, she's not just curious about your history. She's evaluating how you process experiences, how you handle adversity, and how much control you have over your emotions. A man who still carries resentment from his past relationships? That's a man who is emotionally trapped. A man who refuses to even talk about his past? That's a man who lacks self-reflection. But a man who speaks about his past with calmness and clarity? That's a man who is truly free. She's also looking for another key factor: your perspective on women in general. If every ex was crazy or manipulative, what does that say about you? Either you have terrible judgment, or worse, you don't take responsibility for your part in those relationships. Women respect men who acknowledge both the good and the bad without hostility. They admire men who can say, "We had our issues, but I learned a lot from it." That's emotional strength. That's maturity. So when she tests you on this, she's really asking, are you a man who grows from his experiences, or are you a man who gets stuck in them? If you fail the test, if you show bitterness, emotional wounds, or avoidance, she'll see you as weak. If you pass, if you remain composed, balanced, and self-assured, she'll see you as a man who is truly in control of his life. And here's the best part: when you speak about your past with a sense of detachment, wisdom, and confidence, you automatically raise your value in her eyes. She sees that you're not an emotional wreck, not burdened by old scars, not someone who's still haunted by past lovers. You become a man who is emotionally stable, capable of love, but not controlled by it. So the next time she asks, smile. Answer with confidence. And most importantly, remember, the past is only as important as you allow it to be. Chapter 7: The Stress Test. She cancels last minute. Maybe she says she's too tired, or that something came up. Maybe she suddenly becomes distant, her texts getting shorter, her enthusiasm fading. Or maybe she picks a small fight out of nowhere, accusing you of something trivial, nitpicking your words, or acting colder than usual. At first, it seems random. But it's not. She's watching. She's studying your response, reading every subtle shift in your behavior. And most men? They fail this test miserably. They panic. They immediately ask, "Did I do something wrong?" They send long, desperate texts trying to fix things. They overanalyze every interaction, replaying conversations in their head, searching for clues. Some try to argue, explaining why they're right and why she's wrong. Others beg for reassurance, hoping that if they just say the perfect words, everything will go back to normal. But instead of winning her back, they accomplish the opposite. They confirm her suspicion this man isn't as strong as he seemed. He's emotionally fragile, easily shaken, and unable to hold his ground under pressure. A Stoic man? He responds differently. He understands the game. He knows that people, especially women, test to see what kind of man they're dealing with. So instead of reacting emotionally, he remains composed. He doesn't chase, doesn't overanalyze, and doesn't engage in unnecessary drama. If she wants space, she can have it. If she's being difficult, he won't reward it with attention. He lets people come and go as they please because he knows his value isn't dependent on external validation. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about showing strength. A woman doesn't consciously think, let me test this man's resilience. But on a deeper level, that's exactly what's happening. She wants to know, can you handle pressure? Are you the kind of man who stays steady when things get tough? Or are you easily thrown off balance, crumbling at the first sign of uncertainty? Because here's the truth, if a man collapses emotionally because a woman cancels plans, how will he handle real adversity? How will he respond when life throws serious challenges his way, financial struggles, personal losses, career setbacks, or family emergencies? A woman doesn't just want a man who's fun when things are easy, she wants a man who remains unshakable when life throws its hardest punches. This is where so many men go wrong. They think relationships are only about attraction, confidence, or chemistry. And while those things matter, what really separates strong men from weak ones is resilience. Emotional control. The ability to handle stress without breaking down. So what's the right response? Stay calm. If she cancels, say, no problem, let me know when you're free. No sarcasm, no passive-aggressive remarks, just a simple, composed response. If she becomes distant, give her space instead of suffocating her with needy behavior. If she picks a fight, refuse to engage in petty arguments. Instead of defending yourself desperately, let the moment pass. If she's genuinely upset, she'll communicate it in a real way. If she's just testing your emotional stability, she'll realize you won't break under pressure. And here's what happens next. She starts respecting you more. Women admire men who can handle stress, who don't fold under emotional weight, who don't let small situations shake them. But if you fail, if you let every small challenge throw you into a spiral of self-doubt, overthinking, and desperate behavior, she'll see you as just another weak man who can't handle the fire. The stress test isn't just about her. It's about you. It's about proving to yourself that you are in control of your emotions, that you don't let external circumstances dictate your inner stability. Pass this test, and you gain not just her respect, but a deeper sense of self-mastery. Fail, and you'll find yourself constantly at the mercy of other people's moods, reactions, and behaviors. The choice is yours. Women test men because they have to. It's part of their psychology, their nature, their way of filtering out weakness. If you don't understand these tests, you'll fail. But if you master them, you'll command respect without even trying. So remember, stay calm. Stay confident. Never react emotionally. Now, share your experiences in the comments. Have you faced these tests before? How did you handle them? Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.